Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are so glad you're here joining us again this evening. And for another special event or live chat. Today we have a very special guest that I'm sure you're going to love and you will enjoy listening to. But before we get to our special guest, want to say welcome tonight and thank you for taking the time to watch us. And I'm Fatmata, JoJo.
And I'm JoJo Barron. And as
And
usual, remember my gaze is down, not because I'm rude, but because I'm looking at the chat and interacting with you all. So please comment in the chat.
okay, so we'll be introducing our guest soon. But as usual, before we get to the guest, we want to take a moment to have a moment of silence for all the souls we've lost through this pandemic and for our Black brothers and sisters we have lost in the hands of police in this country so far. And for George Floyd's family as they go through, regardless of the decision by the jury, the fact that they had to relive all that and all those young people who were witnesses and had to speak up. And today there's a verdict. So I want to take a moment of silence and give us one few seconds. Thank you. Okay, so today we have an amazing topic of discussion. And as we know, we've had many situations of mass shootings in this country, but we know the results of these mass shootings. We know that the perpetrators, most of the time, are arrested. They go through trial and so on and so forth. If they don't usually kill themselves. But we also know that too many times, our Black brothers and sisters don't make it through as suspects, not even armed, not that they just shot up a house full of people or shot up a church or none of that. They were suspects of something and they don't make it. They're either shot or they're killed in some other manner by the police. So today we want to talk about that. But we also want to talk about the Derek Chauvin case or trial and verdict from yesterday. And today we have a special guest to help us discuss that and the issue of the loss of Black lives in the hands of police. So today we have our special friend, Jahra McLawrence. He is an attorney. We went to law school together. So all three of us went to law school together, University of Florida Law School. And he does defense work, criminal defense. So he's really knowledgeable about what we're going to talk about today. So some of us as attorneys, we know it peripherally, but he actually lives it and he actually works in it. And so we have a really great person to discuss this. So any questions you may have, any comments that you want to put in the chat, as you know, JoJo is ready to put it out for you. And, we're ready to respond to you as soon as you put it out there. Hey, Robin, our last special guest. That was so fantastic.
And I'm surprised, Fatmata, there's no mention of where you guys went to undergrad in Histon and such.
I'm not there yet. Okay. Yeah, give me a minute.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. So Joe decided to step in there.
Sorry.
Like Robin from last week, Jahra and I are alums of the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, the one and only
Highest of 7 hills, baby. Better recognize, Joe.
Recognize JoJo.
I'll let y'all enjoy, because it is a great school. I'll admit that. I chose poorly, and I am jealous. I am hating. That is hateration you see me doing right now. So.
Met Jahra back in, should I say the dates?
Is it 95 or 96?
96, 95, 96. And this is when I fell for this dude, right? So, and he's been the same person, like he's just been real the entire time I've known him, since 95, 96. We're in class. I can't remember the class, right? And to this day, it's probably a good thing I don't remember the person's name, because I can't call him out anyway. And we all had to get up and say who we were, where we're from. So we were getting up, and this one person gets up, a guy from one of my countries in Africa. He said his name, and he said, I think either Miami, one of these cities. And Jahra here goes, come on, man. You know you're not from no Miami. You know you're from Africa. You're from so-and-so by way of Miami. Now that's what you got to say, man. And I was just like, I just called this guy out. So this is Jahra McLawrence.
It sounds like Jahra.
Right? Even to this day. So he is going to say what it is, and he's going to tell you how it is. So, Mr. McLawrence, Attorney McLawrence, we welcome you tonight. We've been talking about having you here for the longest time. JoJo and I were like, when we're gonna get, we gotta talk to him, and then this thing happened with the case, and I was like, oh, perfect guy. So, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, your background, so people can know who you are?
I don't know how far back you want me to go. You may go back to like Frank and Marveline and how they met, and they could, or say that they had the little chat. Well, I'm from Dominica, small, just like, I guess, like I going back to the Chauvin trial, one of the things that it's weird, the things that stick out to you, but when the pulmonologist, the expert was speaking, Dr. Tobin, I don't know if you picked up on it, Fatmata, but it really stuck with me. One of the things that he said, he mentioned this, and I know that the people from where he was from were probably so proud. But he sat there and he said, I'm from, I think, Freshford. I'm from the village of Freshford in Ireland, or Kilkenny or something like that. And I just know that the people from that particular place were probably so beaming with pride. So I always make a point when people ask me where I'm from, I tell them I'm from, Lago Village in the northern part of Dominica. We're village people, man, and that's proud of where we're from. But I grew up in New York, and I served 4 years, 6 months, 23 days, 10 hours, and about 12 minutes in the United States Navy after high school, which who's counting. Then I went to the Florida A&M University on the highest of 7 hills in the capital city of Tallahassee, Florida. And then I went to Gainesville for law school. And then,
we won't mention.
Yeah, then I came out of law school. I came down to South Florida. I actually started working at a construction litigation firm. And I was making buku money, Fatmata. I was making really good money, like first week out of law school, like really, really good money. And I worked there for like about 2 years. I couldn't stand that job. Oh my goodness. I was bored to death. Like I just getting up in the morning was a chore. I was just not motivated. I was just not excited. I don't care how much money I was making. I didn't like the job. So left there, went over to legal aid. They weren't hiring. They sent me over to the public defender's office. I'll skip the whole thing with the PD's office, but I was there for 3 years at the PD's office. And I've never had a more satisfying job in my life. I mean,
I thought it was longer than that.
Huh?
Yeah, I thought it was longer than that.
You know, it seems that way because I talk about it so much, but I loved being a public defender, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my 150 new clients every single month. I enjoyed trying cases on the drop of a dime. You know, I meet you on Thursday, we're going to trial on Monday, whatever. Let's do it. Loved it, man. I love being a public defender. And I left there and opened my own practice in 2006. And have been treading water ever since.
Wow.
So that's in a nutshell.
Wow. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So, people, have you heard that, right? You heard how amazing this person is. And this is why we love him. And we have loved him for years. So, Jahra.
Yes.
We just went through a mess emotionally for Black people in this country. It wasn't the first, and obviously it's not going to be the last because we just had that young lady. I don't want to say her name wrong, JoJo.
I want to say Makia Bryant.
And 30 minutes or 45 minutes before the verdict came, she was shot and killed by the police. 15 or 16 years old. But let's talk about the Derek Chauvin trial and case. So before the decision came, notice that you actually called the case. Like you literally called that he will be convicted on all 3 counts. Can you tell us why you thought that and what led you to believe that?
Well, I'll tell you that, but first let me tell you why I posted that. Okay. So what happens is, I guess I get to be amongst my friends, colleagues, and friends, I get to be the resident criminal law expert. So from the time it went to the jury, people were texting me, calling me, what do you think? What do you think? So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out on Facebook what I think, rather than telling a million different people what I think. But from the time, I think that my personal opinion is what happened in that case is after the case went to the jury for deliberations, and when I found out that they were sequestered, I did not know they were sequestered and the reason I didn't know was because of the comments the judge made about the comments that Maxine Waters made. He was making these comments as if the jury wasn't sequestered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I found out the jury was sequestered, I was like, oh, okay. So they're going to make up their mind as soon as they leave that jury, as soon as they leave the jury box, they're going to meet, they're going to make a decision, and that's going to be it. So I think they made their decision within 2 hours of them getting back to that hotel. And what folks don't realize is that judges have their docket. They have their docket set for the week. So it's not that the jury took so long to deliberate and to reach a decision. I don't think that's what it was. I think that judge had his docket. He had other things he had to do. And when he was finished doing that, that's when the jury came in and then he read the verdict out. But to me, the way that the prosecution charged the case, the way that they put forth evidence, it was pretty evident. To me, it was a given that he was going to be found guilty, and it just seemed like he was going to be found guilty on all of the charges. In my opinion, based on what they presented, I couldn't see. I mean, yes, we know as Black folk that a lot of the times, however you want to put it, the jury could go sideways when it comes to police officers being prosecuted. But I honestly believe that in this particular case, the prosecution actually tried to convict this officer. They actually put forth a good effort to do so. Sometimes in some of these cases, we don't see that effort being put forth. But in this case, they did put forth that effort, and with a mixed jury pool, and that's important too, who was on the jury pool. And I want to talk about that a little bit as well. But with a mixed jury pool and with the effort that they put forth and the way that the statutes in Minnesota are written, to me, it was a no-brainer that I was going to be guilty on all 3 counts.
So what was it about the jury pool that you think made a difference?
Man, let me tell you something. I love my people. I love Black people. I love Black women more than I love Black men. Well, I love Black women more than I love anybody, really. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But but let me tell you something, man. When you pick a jury and you see some of the foolishness that people say, and a lot of people who are Black or brown, some of this foolishness they come up with to not be on the jury. And sometimes I'm the only Black. Me and my client are the only other Black people in the courtroom. Everybody else is white. Everybody, you know. And here we are sitting down, and we have to listen to this fool come up there and say something so stupid just so they could get out of jury duty. You know, it's so frustrating. It's embarrassing. It's hurtfully embarrassing. But it happens almost every time I pick a jury that someone who looks like me will get up there and they'll say something ridiculous so they won't get on the jury pool. And they think it's funny, you know, they think it's humor and it's a game and it's a big joke. So this is the importance of having a mixed jury pool. I think when I say mixed jury pool, I don't mean like in terms of race. I mean in terms of experience sometimes. And I think that Black people experience things differently than white people in America. And so I always think it's important to have a good mix of Black people on your jury pool, because, you know, I think that this particular jury panel, they took the standpoint of like, nah, we're not going for the BS. I'm telling you, my personal opinion is they made their decision within 2 hours. I don't think they went any further than 2 hours.
You think within 2 hours of getting the case, or 2 hours of going home and being sequestered?
Yeah, they made 2 hours of being sequestered. They made up they made a decision. I don't think it went any. I mean, hopefully further down the road, someone will get to speak to them and they'll get to speak to that. But that's my thought on it.
So generally speaking, if they come back that quickly, what would you as a defense attorney think?
So I've had cases. It's really hard to formulate an opinion based on how long it takes a jury to return a verdict. But in my experience, the quickest verdicts are not guilty verdicts.
Okay.
I've had one. I mean, literally the jury. So the last jury person, well, they have this kind of swinging gate. So I'm sorry, it wasn't a gate, it was a door. So they went through the door that's in the courtroom, and then there's another door for the jury room. So they went through, when the last person went through the door in the courtroom, and then I heard the jury room door close, and they went bump bump. Right? They reached a verdict. It was 2 bumps for a verdict. I was like, yeah, okay, not guilty. And they came back just that fast. I mean, I don't think the last dude had a chance to sit down before they came back, because jurors are like, they can tell you when, the prosecution is full of crap, and they'll come back really quick on those. The cases that worry me is when is like that 1 hour, 2 hour mark. That's when I'm nervous. Mm-hmm. That 1 hour, 2 hour mark. If it goes past 2 hours, it's like, like way past 2 hours. Like if it's like, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, then my thought is, okay, mistrial. Or they have questions. We stand a chance, some hope. But that period of time between, let's say, after 2 hours to 8 hours, nah, you're toast, man. You know what I'm saying? Like if that verdict comes back, nah, dude, you're gone, man.
Wow. You know what I appreciated about this prosecution is that they seem to spoon feed us every element of each count, so that particularly in their closing, so that it didn't seem to be any question as to, okay, this is what the element is, and this is what the standard is, and this is how this directly fits in. Now, try to do something else, F around if you want, but you'll be wrong. I mean, Jahra, talk about the prosecution for a second and what you think about how they handle this case.
You know, I think, like I said, I think that unlike a lot of the prosecutions we've seen of police officers, this prosecution tried. They really put forth an effort. I thought that the prosecutors in the Amber Geiger case were, man, those dudes were spot on too, man. They were serious about their stuff. You know what I'm saying? But then in Minnesota, it seems as if the way the statutes are written, quite honestly, Joe, I might even have a problem trying to get someone to be found not guilty in Minnesota of murder, because the way that their statutes are written, it seems pretty. It doesn't seem like a difficult task to have someone found guilty for murder. So it belies the question then: what if someone isn't found guilty for murder? You know, like, did you really try? So I thought that they tried. I think they did a good job. They were very thorough. I thought that their experts were very convincing. I mean, when you have a guy who comes up there and he says that, yeah, I'm an expert. I get paid $500 an hour for my testimony, but I'm doing this for free. I volunteered because I thought it was very important to get this scientific, this medical information out to the public so they understand about breathing. I mean, you know, that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that made me sit up. So yeah, they did a very good job. They presented their case very well, I felt. But I also thought that the defense had I mean, clearly they had an uphill battle. And something else I wanted to touch on. I don't know if you want to touch on the defense now or if you want to go into something else before.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Because I was actually going to ask you about
yeah, I thought they did as good a job as they could do. I felt that, and another lawyer, defense lawyer who I respect, him and I were having an exchange. I think that a better strategy would have been to go all out for the second-degree manslaughter offense, like to just admit it. Like, yeah, you know what? His actions did cause the death of George Floyd, but it's not this second-degree murder. It's not this third-degree murder. It's actually the second-degree manslaughter, and this is why. You know, I agree with everybody. I agree with everything that they're saying. I agree with all the experts. Yes, they're true. They're correct. They're this. They're that. But this is what happened here. And then put Chauvin on the stand to testify and to admit to the stuff, but to admit to the stuff that would fit the terms of second-degree manslaughter. But let me say this: a lot of times, and I even think that his defense actually mentioned this to him. I think that they wanted him to do this because just from watching his defense lawyer, this guy was very good. He crossed his T's, he dotted his I's. He didn't have a lot to work with, and he seemed very prepared. He seemed very competent to me. So I think that at some point he sat down and he probably told him, "Hey, listen, man, you're not going to be found not guilty. Trust me on this. It would be much better if you get 10 years in prison than if you get 25 to life." But sometimes, a lot of times, defense attorneys try to tell our clients this when we see the writing on the wall. And of course, nobody wants to accept that. And it's only when they're convicted and they're given life or they're given 25 to life that, it hits differently, right? At 25, now you want to get that 10 years in prison, right? So, I mean, I've had a few cases where we've had to make some very difficult decisions about accepting pleas. I've had, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but to give you a great example, I've had a case where a guy was charged with it was a sexual battery on a minor. And, his choices were go to trial, found guilty, possibly, and then you're looking at 15 years in prison, but with the designation as a sexual predator, or accept an aggravated battery charge, a change of charge to aggravated battery, and take 10 years in prison. And we knew that we could fight on the evidence, but the witness was really good. Witness was very convincing. And it was a big risk. So, sometimes you have to take the lesser of two evils as far as it goes with sentencing.
Why do you think because when he started his defense, or not even before he started defense, during the case in chief, during the prosecution's case, he seemed to be focusing a lot on almost like the violence of the people, the anger of the people. Like that was going to be the defense as to why his client did what he did or how that happened. I guess I always wonder if that was actually a smart thing to do, because what it did for many of us is it was almost like a trigger saying, okay, so because there's a whole bunch of Black people, you think this the Black anger, right? The angry Black man, the angry Black woman, because that's what he tends to focus on.
Yeah. What what did you want him to do? You want him to like, he's not gonna lay down and be like, you know what, we give up. No, yeah, I do the same. Me and Joe had this conversation. Joe said, Jahra, would you have defended him? Hell yeah, I would have defended him. You pay me enough money, I'd defend you. Shoot, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Black folk coming and hiring Black lawyers to defend them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, they'll have the money and they won't hire us, despite the fact that we may win 8 out of every 10 cases we take to trial. They'll still go hire somebody else that doesn't look like us. You know what I'm saying? So, I think
taking the case, it's the type of defense that you use, right? Because
not to give a defense. And yes, so I mean, when you pick a jury, no matter what anybody says, when you pick the jury, your own personal biases come into play. Your own prejudices come into play, and you try to pick jurors based on your prejudices and your biases. So so I do think that maybe he was trying to, on some level, cater to the fears of the white members of the jury panel.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a defense lawyer. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to protect your client without crossing the rules. So I ain't mad at him.
Okay, I just wasn't sure how that was going to work out, because it was
obviously it didn't. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I honestly believe, just from listening to the defense attorney and the way he presented himself, the way how prepared he was, how knowledgeable he was about the medical, in terms of medical terminology and all these things, I would find it hard to believe that he did not tell his client, listen, you're not gonna be found not guilty. Let's go for the second degree manslaughter charge. Let's shoot for that.
Okay, but
I think he had that conversation. But Chauvin, he's just like a lot of police officers. He's just cocky. He's conceited. He's full of hubris. So he couldn't bring himself to admit that he did something wrong. And so now we wait in sentencing to see what this judge is going to do, because the sentencing is going to be up to the judge.
What do you think about the judge's the way he presided over the case? Because I have some opinions on some of the calls. Obviously, I'm not a criminal attorney, right? You are. So some of the calls for me seem questionable, right? Especially calls on the witness being argumentative, and some of the ones that he did call argumentative, and it was like one of the ladies who, I think she was an EMT or something, and I'm just like, that's argumentative? I mean, really? Okay. I'm maybe the whatever, what's the guy's name? The Black guy who did martial arts.
Right.
Him, you may, if they had objected, said argumentative, I would have said, okay. But some of the ones he called on, I was just like, okay. And then, of course, his comment about Maxine Waters, that just solidified it for me. So I'm sort of in my head, I don't know if I'm reading him wrong. Maybe I am concerned. I know I listen to the news and all this idea that the judge may give him more time because of the circumstances and so on and so forth. But I'm sort of concerned about that.
I think you have reason to be concerned. I'm always concerned when the decision making is left solely to the judge, because judges are human. They're full of prejudices and biases as well. So I detest juvenile cases because of that, because I don't have a jury. It's going to be up to the judge, and I don't like that at all. That being said, as far as the judge's rulings during the trial, I personally did not see. So when I look at these things, I look at these things from an appellate standpoint. Okay. Did the judge do something that's appealable, that you can appeal and you can say, his ruling was wrong here, his ruling was wrong there. And I didn't see anything, and I've read a lot of the commentary from other defense lawyers, and I haven't seen anyone that's pointed to something that the judge did that was appealable. I thought that there was something relating to Mr. Floyd that he allowed to come in. I think it was something from the prior year or something like that. I thought that was a little questionable, but with the way the verdict came out, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be appealable. But as far as the judge making the ruling as it relates to sentencing, I always think there's room for some concern. I had a little puzzle. I was a little puzzled by his statements about Maxine Waters, especially given the fact that the jury was going to be sequestered. That's I thought when he made the comment, like I said before, I thought that they were going to go home. Mm-hmm. So when I learned they were going to be sequestered, I was like, okay, what was the point of him making that statement?
It's almost as if he was trying to give them a reason to have.
To have an appeal.
I think he literally said this might be an appealable issue, but I'm not going to grant the mistrial. And I looked at that and I said, what are we doing right now?
Like, why are you even saying it? Like, you're almost giving them an open door. Mm-hmm. And that did not sit well with me at all. Mm-hmm.
And Paula Scott says the judge will be lenient. And I have a sneaking suspicion that that's a real possibility, a very real possibility. That's why I'm not really excited about the verdict yesterday. I think we have 8 more weeks really to know whether or not we have something to be excited about. A lot of folks were talking yesterday about this being justice, but Jahra, what do you think about yesterday being a day of justice for the Floyd family?
I think some other folks correctly say that it's a day of accountability. Yeah. And that's true. I more so agree with that than with the notion of this being justice. People have to keep in mind too that in the state of Minnesota, so count 1 is the second-degree murder charge, and I believe he's looking up to 40 years on count 1. I wrote it down somewhere, and then count 2 he's looking up to 25 years. Count 2 is the third-degree murder charge, and on count 3, which is the second-degree manslaughter charge, he's looking at up to 10 years. But in the state of Minnesota, they have a what they call a presumptive sentence for a person who's a first-time offender who commits murder. So the presumptive sentence on the first 2 murder charges is 12 and a half years. And remember, he can't be sentenced consecutively because he took all these things to trial at the same time. So it's going to be, if anything, it'll be matter of fact, they're only going to sentence him on the most serious offense, which is the second-degree murder. So he has a presumptive sentence of 12 and a half years on the second-degree murder charge. And what the prosecution is trying to do is they're trying to bring in aggravating factors such as his position of authority, such as this happened in front of children, to try to get the judge to go above that 12 and a half years. But I just want to remind people that the presumptive sentence is 12 and a half years. So the judge can always fall back on that and say, well, you know, this is what the legislature has put in place. If anyone has an issue with it, they'll have to take it up with the legislature. So yeah, so that could go down that way.
Wow.
So we're just going to ignore that they do have some leeway, and they use that leeway on folks that look like the three of us, probably on a very regular basis.
Aggravate the sentence, yes. They have discretion. Discretion is never applied when it in the right way when it comes to us. We never get the benefit of discretion. We always get the consequence of discretion.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. Clarence Watt, he asked, can he do less than 12 years for any reason, according to your research, Jahra?
I haven't researched it in Minnesota, but in the state of Florida, yes, that's a possibility. The defense could do what's called a motion for downward departure. They could bring up any number of factors that lead to that would lead a judge to exercise his discretion and to sentence less than whatever the recommended guidelines are. For instance, in the state of Florida, there's any number of things that you could put in to have the person have the judge depart downward, such as the person showed remorse. This was done in an unsophisticated manner. The defendant has some sort of mental illness. Any number of things you could use to request that the judge depart downward. A lot of these things don't apply in Chauvin's case because clearly he showed no remorse. But if Minnesota is like Florida, you could do that. But a presumptive sentence of 12 and a half years for a first-time offender is pretty. As far as me as a defense lawyer, I know it sounds weird to a lot of people, but that's pretty damn good. In Florida, my client is found guilty of murder. He's not doing any less than 25 years.
It's a life. You took a life. Like literally took somebody's life that you can never give back. There's no remedy for that, right? So it makes sense. 12 years. Especially in this case, it's sort of disheartening for me, even as an attorney. It's very disheartening. You killed him slowly for the whole world to see. And you felt
with your hands in your pocket.
You felt absolutely nothing for this human being.
Well, Chauvin the expression on his face was one of, I can get away with this. And for a lot of police officers, that is the notion that they have. Because either they are not prosecuted, or if they are prosecuted, it's some sort of weak, soft prosecution. That's just a show prosecution, not a real prosecution. But like I said, in the two cases I could think of, in the Geiger case and in this case, the prosecutors came ready. They weren't playing around. They were serious about the prosecution.
So does this give you a hint about what they're going to do about the other two or three? Is it 2 or 3?
You see that. So the problem is that, remember the original. So this particular prosecution that we saw was not the original prosecution team.
Right.
It was Keith Ellison. Is that his?
Keith Ellison took over.
The Attorney General.
Right. The Attorney General took over the case because the original prosecution team was going to do one of these show prosecutions, if at all they were going to do, if they were even going to, they were trying to find reasons not to prosecute. And people have to realize that the police and the prosecutors are, it's basically agency relationship, right? They are the agents of, the police are the agents of the prosecutors. So I don't know how the other one is going to go. If they're going to be, if the other attorney is going to be locally prosecuted, there's a lot of room to be worried, to be concerned about the seriousness of the prosecution. So.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we don't see any more comments on there, but we want to, before we go, we want to touch on the mass shootings and the fact that they've been basically white people shooting people up, but yet somehow they are arrested safely and they make it to court. So why are Black people not being able to do that? And they are unarmed and they're not, I mean, the police know that this person has an AR-15. They know this person has an AR-15, and somehow, by some miracle, they're able to maintain in such a way that they can safely arrest them. Why can't they do that with Black people?
I was watching some sort of documentary with some former police sergeant or something like that. He was talking about his experience. He was white police sergeant, and he was talking about his experience when he was a police officer. And he now heads some sort of effort, or he's part of an effort to either expose police officers and their bias against Black folk, or to just to bring awareness to the issue. And what he said, which is poignant, or which is poignant, is that officers don't value Black lives. Right? They don't. Right. Exactly. Which we've known for a long time. And as I think about that, one of the things that I think is most troubling is, so it's all well that we are now, our lens is turned on Minnesota. We talk about Texas with Amber Geiger. We talk about Alabama, where they had, I think they had the whole police department that was in on some kind of framing Black people thing for years. Thousands of Black people to prison on false charges. So we'll look at Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, and be like, yeah, that's not surprising. Even Florida, that's not surprising. But I don't know if any of you remember that this sort of stuff was going on since the 80s in New York.
You're about to say New York.
Yeah.
And this stuff has been going on forever in New York.
Yep.
One of the so-called liberal bastions of America. And this stuff happens every day in New York. And we just don't see the microscope there. We don't see the light being shown on New York. But New York is out of control with their police department, and they went even more out of control after 9/11.
I mean, Giuliani was the godfather. I mean, was the face of that, and Bloomberg just took it to the next level. And in my limited knowledge of what was going on during that time, but it's pretty crazy. And that's the North. We're assuming it's going to be a little better for Black folks up there, but I mean, it's just geography, really. The mindset is still Black people don't matter. They're criminal by nature and treated as such, and that's real unfortunate.
I think there's a fear that I don't know. I don't want to say there's a fear that white people have of Black people, but sometimes I walk around and I have this question. I'm like, wait a minute. Were we the ones that kidnapped you? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if there's this kind of innate fear that these people are just, these people are going to rise up because they're going to get so tired of the amount of brutality we impose upon them. So we have to be on our guard 24. I don't know what it is, but there's obviously this kind of fear. I mean, I don't know what would make you, as a trained police officer, come up on a scene and shoot a young boy within, I think it was, remember with
Tamir Rice.
Yeah, Tamir Rice, within, and that police officer was, I don't think he was ever prosecuted.
No, was not.
Right? So obviously other police officers see that. And this is why I put on my post, I'm not afraid, if the verdict had come out not guilty, I wasn't afraid of what Black people would do. And as the post that I put on there, and I know you saw that, Joe, I wasn't afraid of what Black people would do. I was afraid of what white cops would do, or not white cops, but what cops would do,
in general,
what they would take away from that. Because when you see things like the Tamir Rice killing, there was another one too, where there was they were they came into some sort of Walmart, and there was
In
a
Ohio.
brother, in Ohio as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot the brother on site.
Yep.
Inside the Walmart, and I don't think they were prosecuted either.
And it was a BB gun that he got in Walmart.
In Walmart, and I don't think they were prosecuted either. So when cops see these things, I mean, okay, look, I'm a good guy. I've never stolen anything in my life. But if I knew I could walk into Bank of America and make off with $1 million, and I wouldn't be prosecuted, not that I wouldn't be caught on camera or questioned or interrogated, but I wouldn't be prosecuted, man, trust me, I'm taking that $1 million. I'm taking it. So these cops,
but they seem to know how to prosecute cops, because in Minnesota, the cop of Somali descent is sitting in prison right now for killing that white woman. So they know how to do it, and I think the only reason why a lot of people have been saying this, George Floyd's, his family saw any kind of accountability from the police department, is because it was caught on camera, and the whole world, not just caught on camera, but the whole world stood up, not just big cities in America. We're talking about Paris, we're talking about London, Germany, of all places. I mean, people all over the world were protesting this. That is
where else?
Incredible.
China.
And
China
black
brought it
people
up.
in
China's
China.
China's like, wait a minute, you talking about human rights? You? Like, no, it could not you, who was had your knee on a black man's neck for 9 minutes plus. Not you, the United States. No, not you.
And they were right to say that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's true.
Yeah. But I've said, and you guys know, if you guys have seen my posts for years, I've actually gotten away from doing it because I'm so tired of doing it. But the problem with police officers, I think, stems from the prosecutor's office. I think if you had more prosecutions of criminal cops, a lot of this stuff would stop, because they would then see that, wait a minute, there's consequences for our actions. There are harsh consequences for our actions. We can't get away with just killing people. We can't get away with, oh, I thought his wallet was a gun. I thought his phone was a gun. I thought his finger was a gun. I thought his dark skin was a gun. You can't get away with that. But it all goes back to the prosecutor's office, and you have to have prosecutors that have the gumption to do what's right. And unfortunately, it's not always just because the prosecutor is Black that they're gonna do the right thing. Because we see what's happening with Cameron in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Even in New York, we had the case where I believe it was an Asian police officer of Sino descent. I want to say Sino because I don't want to say Chinese. I'm not sure if it was Chinese or not. But he entered a staircase and he shot in the staircase and he kind of blindly, and he killed someone. He was found guilty. He was taken to court. He was found guilty. And the Black prosecutor of Brooklyn asked that he be placed on probation. Yeah. So, so we ourselves, sometimes when you look at like that particular prosecutor, and then you look at Cameron in Kentucky,
oh, that's a whole mess right there. But Jahra, we just elected a Black prosecutor here in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale. Have you seen any difference in, any changes? I mean, is the atmosphere different? Is the fear different amongst police officers about what could happen if something goes awry?
I don't know about amongst police officers. We haven't had any tests along those lines as yet. I know that there was something recently that came out from that office dealing with first-time offenders and a diversion program when it comes to domestic violence. And there's some things in there that I think it's more of the same. And it's something that I'm going to draft a letter in response to, but I'm not gonna come here and put him on blast. Certainly if some of the things that I thought were going to change just stay the same, and I'm going to go right back to what I used to do when Sats was the prosecutor and put him on blast. So we'll see.
Wow.
It looks like Clarence Watt is here in Broward with us, Jahra, and he says that the same things are happening with some Black cops. They don't always show us respect, and they talk down to us right here in Broward.
there was some case I read some time ago where there was some Black officer in a high school and he was arresting someone, and while he was arresting that particular student, he kept using the N-word, and he was fired from his job. And I, for one, didn't have any problems with it. I just didn't. I saw that one of our colleagues who went to law school with us had a problem with him being fired, and she was upset about it, and so on and so forth. But if you would be upset if it was a white officer doing it, then you better be upset when it's a Black officer doing it, because it does make a difference. You conduct yourself in a certain way, and you don't mistreat us because you want to impress your colleagues.
That's right.
Yeah, and we actually had recently, JoJo, we talked about that here in Montgomery County. Two Black, I think they're both Black officers.
Both Black, one woman, one guy.
And they were screaming at this little baby, this kindergarten, I think.
Oh yes, I remember that.
I mean, the way they spoke to that boy, to that baby, the trauma that they have inflicted on that little man, he is going to need help. I don't care what anybody, he is going to need help. They terrorized him.
But he won't get it. He's going to be written off as a bad child, as, whatever terrible thing we often write off our kids as. And he's going to grow up with this trauma, and we'll have to live with the consequences of that, whatever that looks like. I mean, and that's real problematic.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I just feel like the system is set up in such a way that this is what's supposed to happen for Black people. Until and unless something is done by the system as a whole, we're never going to get out of this. It's going to be a continuing cycle.
Well, as far as the criminal justice system is concerned, everything starts and ends with the prosecutor's office. You have the right prosecutor in there. That prosecutor can make a whole heck of a difference. When you look at what's happening in Philadelphia because of the prosecutor they elected, you look at Orlando with the prosecutor they elected. You look at some other states, some other cities, some other counties. It all starts and ends with the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor puts their foot down. I remember, it's some prosecutors act as if they're the agents of the police officers. The police officers are your agents. So when you put your foot down and when you say you're not going to tolerate this, that, or the other thing from the police departments, they listen. I mean, you have I forget, one of the police agencies has a list of police officers that they will not accept testimony from. I forget where that is.
Wow.
Why are they still police officers then? I mean,
I don't know. Begs the question. I mean, that particular prosecutor's office has deemed those officers to be unreliable. I forget where it is.
So we have a prosecutor over here in Baltimore, and they literally have been trying to destroy her.
Oh, Mosley. Yeah.
They have been. It hasn't stopped. They have literally been trying to destroy this woman. And then they started going after her husband. So it's and why? Because she's basically holding holding
them accountable. Yeah. What a thing, right? What a thing. I mean, and then
you can't randomly kill people. Wow, sorry.
And then you have to you have to, like, it's up to us in the community to provide the support that these particular people need. I think the churches have one of the things that's really weird here in South Florida, especially in Broward County, is that the Black churches have, even though like folks like me and others have been trying to educate the pastors as to the amount of power they have, they just never they haven't gotten it yet, how much power they have in this community and how to actually wield that power and to make things happen with their power. I mean, these guys, whenever they come up with the judges, the prosecutors, these are elected positions. And around election time, they know that they're going to split the white vote. So they know that the vote that they have to depend on to win or lose is the Black vote. and they know that where they're going to get the Black vote is in churches. And you have these pastors that freely allow these people to come in there and peddle foolishness and bamboozle their parishioners for any number of silly reasons. You know, there's one particular church here that's a very powerful church here in Broward County, and I've always thought that they've been very I don't know what the proper terminology is, but the terminology I want to use may be too harsh, but I think they could do a better job in vetting who comes to their church and why they're coming to their church, and then following up to make sure that that person holds true to what they say they're going to do.
Well, you know, they're limited, right? To a certain degree, they cannot, if they allow one, they have to allow others.
They don't. They don't. They don't. It's your facility. It's not a government or public type of thing. It's your place.
Right, but you don't want to appear, because I think for some people, part of their concern, it may not be a really valid concern per se, but it's hard to remove them from that, because I've dealt with many religious houses here. And part of their thing is because they're supposed to be a religious institution and nonprofit and so on and so forth, and they're not supposed to really be involved as far as political aspect or whatever. They're not supposed to have any sort of it's supposed to be apolitical. So for many of us, we are more concerned about appearing to be supportive of one and not the other. So if somebody,
you know what, we don't have that luxury as Black people. That's the thing. We don't have that luxury. So we have to do a better job of, well, the pastors have to do a better job of vetting who's coming to the, of being gatekeepers, and of forming some kind of a proper union amongst spiritual leaders. I find that, like I said, here in Broward County, which is in Florida, the pastors have been doing a much better job than they were doing, let's say, in 2010. I find that there are certain other organizations that I find are really lacking, like the Muslim population here is really, 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 I don't know, they're like invisible when it comes to participating and being involved. And they could do a much better job because there are mosques here. We never hear about them. We never hear from them. We never hear about them. They never get involved in anything. And then, of course, the only time we hear them is when they're being persecuted. And then they're reaching out to the general Black population. But, you know, the general Black population is looking back like, okay, where were you? You know, we've been in this struggle for years. Where were you?
Yeah. Part of it is, I can tell you as a Muslim person living out here, and some of the discussions I've had with my Muslim community, especially within the African Muslim community, there's a ideology that we are focused on the faith, on the religion. And yes, of course, you get affected. So it's something where you have to work on, and we have to also do outreach, because I know that for as long as I've been involved in community and politics, in any environment I'm in where they're talking about outreach, they don't talk about outreach to the mosques. It's now sometimes I'll hear, especially here in Montgomery County, we do that a little bit more. But generally speaking, is we reach out to the churches. Nobody thinks about reaching out to the mosques. Nobody thinks about reaching out to the Muslim community. They don't. So it's one of those things, like in my community that I live in, when I ran in 2018 is when I saw yard signs after I put up my yard signs. But nobody came here. When I went door knocking, people were shocked out of their skulls that somebody is coming to their door, knocking on their door, asking for their vote, because nobody comes out here. It's immigrant community. People didn't care. People started caring when somebody from the community that was running for office, and it seemed as if there was momentum going. And that's months later, because my signs were all over the area, on people's doors, everywhere. So then people woke up and said, oh, wait, there are people who live there. Let's go there. And that's part of it, right? you have a community where, and historically, people don't come to them. People don't come to the mosque and say, let's talk to your people. It's happening a little bit more now. So here, at least in Montgomery County, we're having interaction, we're having engagement, and having iftars with the elected officials. They're having candidate forums. So maybe over there, the thing will be to reach out to this community to tell them and let them know that they're actually important. Let them know that they matter. Let them know that they are relevant. Because if you feel relevant, you want to get involved. And if people are talking about issues, as far as political issues, electoral issues, talk about issues that pertains to them and make it fit their lives. Because if everything we're talking about does not necessarily affect them, they're gonna be like, what do I have to do with it? You know.
But here's the issue when it comes to immigrant population, and when it comes to people of different faiths, people who are not quote unquote Christians, American Christians, everything affects you.
Yeah, I know.
And everything, and you know, Black Americans have made that sacrifice so that you, Fatmata, and I can come here and be here as something other than an indentured servant.
Yes.
So, so anything that affects Black Americans affects us. You know, no one comes up and says, "Oh, well, you're Dominican," or "Oh, you're from Sierra Leone." No,
while our
Black.
mouths are shut, no one knows where we're coming from.
So yeah, so
and that's not.
It's up to
I give.
It's up to us to get involved. We have to pay attention and we have to see what's going on and we have to get involved. You know, you can't get involved when you are the one being affected specifically, because by then it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Way too late. Well, see, I'm not really talking about so much affecting you, but more engagement. Because I can say, as far as, especially when it comes to political grassroots, many times people don't even know where to start because it's not their world. And so you sort of have to engage them. And that's what I did many, many times. Engage the community that otherwise may not have been engaged or does not even know how to get engaged or doesn't think that their voice actually matters. And it helps, right? If you're trying to have a rally somewhere, go to the mosque and be like, can I announce this for the rally? Talk to the imam, talk to the scheduler of events or whatnot. Some mosques are starting now to have like a community engagement department or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you find out who these people are. We want to have a rally about A, B, C, and D. Can we announce it? You know, you may have a woman goes to the women's side and make an announcement. You have the dude go to the men's side and make an announcement if it's one of those mosques. If not, you know, the ones that are open and you have front and back. And that's how you get them engaged. And every time you want to do something, you tell them. If it's a community that has a lot of foreign speaking people, you have a flyer that's in their language. Because some of the issues I had here was that a lot of information was being translated into Spanish only. Mm. But this community has a lot of people who speak Amharic, who speak French, but you don't have flyers in Amharic or French. Mm-hmm. But you want them to be engaged. Mm. So it's sort of a conundrum, right? You want them engaged, but you're not really coming to them the way that they will be engaged. So people say, oh, we have this information. Where is it? Online. Okay, we don't have internet. Right? Or we've put flyers all over the place. In what language? English, Spanish. So the Spanish community is very engaged because you're actually going there to talk to them and you're putting things in a way that they understand. So that's what I'm saying. It's not easy and it's work. But at the end of the day, once people understand that what affects one affects you, because what you just said is my favorite speech I give people. When the police see a Black person, when they want to shoot you, they're not going to stop and be like, oh, were you born in America first? All they see is a Black skin. We're scared of Black people and they shoot you. Mm-hmm. Now, we've had 5 shootings here. And of the 5 shootings, 4 are Black. Of the 4 who are Black, 3 of them are of African descent. 1 was the first generation. The cops didn't stop and ask whether you were born here or not. did you come from enslaved people? They didn't stop and ask that before they shot you. You know, and I always tell the same story. I would not be an attorney if a whole bunch of Black Americans were not killed, if families were not annihilated, and if communities were not bombed while they were fighting for the right to just be. I wouldn't,
Right.
you know, but I think we just have to keep telling those stories, and we just have to keep encouraging, make sure that the immigrant communities, especially those that look like us, understand that we have to come together. And it's why we have this Black Diaspora Voices, right, JoJo?
Mm-hmm.
We try to build that and realize that, you know, our reality are really very much, you know, as they say, you present Black and that's it, you're Black.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I mean, at the end of the day, Black is Black to, you know, to a lot of these cops. They don't care where you come from. They don't care about your accent. They don't care about any of that. Your skin tells all the information that they need. So, and they proceed from there.
JoJo,
Yeah.
as we come to a close.
Yep. That's what we're doing.
Do your thing.
We had a good conversation. We finally had Jahra. Jahra didn't know that we were trying to get him on here because we haven't actually asked him until recently. And when I say recently, I mean this morning, 7 a.m. I sent the text. So I thank you so very, very, very much.
And then is her asking me because I didn't answer quickly enough.
Well, that's because Fatmata sent me a text. Did he answer? Did he answer?
Well, I mean, I knew it was going to be important. We needed that information. Can you imagine?
Had I known that I was going to be on it, I wouldn't have shaved off my face. You know, I thought I was going to be in my house the whole week, not showing my face.
Jahra,
I said, I'm gonna try something new. And I shaved off all my hair. You know, one of my ex-girlfriends told me that I looked like a certain, well, I can't say it on your little show here, but you know.
Fatmata doesn't let us curse. But let me tell you something, Jahra, to swell your head. Your graphic has gotten the most reach of any graphic we've probably ever had for a guest or for a live. So if you're not married by the end of this or have a new girlfriend or something, I mean, that's just your fault. I don't know what to tell you. That's on you, because that flyer has gone far and wide, very far and wide. So
I'm gonna grow back my little mustache, man, my little goatee. I can't be, you know what I'm saying? I never shave off my facial hair.
I was about to say something because I don't think I've ever remember seeing you without a goatee.
Yeah, man. I just said, you know, let me try something different this week while I'm in the house. And here we are doing the interview.
Sorry. Well, like I said to you earlier, Jahra, you have an open invitation to come. So the calendar is open. You let us know. I know that certain months are out because some folks like to go home back to Dominica various times of the year. So whenever that is not, you're going to be right here. So thank you so much for today.
So Paula says, looking like a baby.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a nice terminology. That's not what my ex-girlfriend told me, but that's all right.
So do you know Robin Donaldson?
Yeah, of course I know Robin.
Robin said hi.
Robin is awesome, man. She's awesome. I followed her when she was supporting the Biden campaign. I know she's still with the Biden campaign.
She was on last week. Yeah,
I have to say that even though I wasn't a supporter of the Biden campaign initially in the primaries, I was really impressed with the way that she stuck with the campaign, the way that she promoted the campaign, and you know, she was very respectful and very conversational in explaining her support for the campaign. I love the way her professionalism was awesome. And the way that she carried herself and was just impressive and good for her, man. I hope nothing but good things come down the road for her. She deserves it.
He's awesome. We're sisters in this Women of Color Coalition, and it's amazing.
And another FAMU alum, right?
Another FAMU.
What? That's how we do. What you talking about? What up, blood?
What?
Gangsta?
What did I unleash?
You lucky Monica ain't here with us.
Oh Lord. Somebody tag Monica.
Get Momo up in here.
One day, y'all can boot me out and just have a FAMU show. Because we went to school with so many great FAMU alum. You know, that's why I'm mad I went to the school I went to, so we won't even talk about that. But you know, FAMU graduated some wonderful people. So I love y'all.
Thank you.
Yay. So on that note, I want to ask you, Jahra, since you're our honored guest, what is something great that has happened to you in the last week?
Well, I was able to get, I had this pretty complex case down in Miami. One of my clients was one of these people who were arrested during the spring break thing. The police down there in Miami, they go on these arrest surges during spring break. And he was arrested, father of two. He was arrested and charged with these battery on law enforcement, 2 counts of battery on law enforcement officer and some other nonsense. And I was able to convince the filing prosecutor down there in Dade County that was just foolishness and to not file. And I wrote a nice memo. I went back to my law school days, wrote a nice little memo, like 2 pages. And they responded and said, you know what, you're right. And they declined to prosecute. So that was a very good result for my client, for myself. So I was very happy about that.
So if you're anywhere in Florida and you get in trouble, y'all know you need to find Jahra McLawrence, because he's going to get your butt out of trouble.
You need to come up with some money.
Oh, yeah.
Same money you're going to give to them other folks, you better give it to me.
Put a mortgage on your house if you got to, but come up with money and Jahra got you.
Exactly.
He's already done the TV thing.
Say that again?
He's already done the public defender part.
Yeah.
And you are not a 501c3 corporation. Let's make that money.
Paid the dues already.
Fatmata, what about you?
Girl, I was sitting here thinking, I don't even know.
And the messed up part is that we know this question is coming every week, and we're all like,
but
I don't know.
That's because we got to think of what really, especially in today's day and age, because we're indoors so much.
Yeah. It's
really hard. You know what I mean?
Life really is routine, ain't it?
It's very routine, very, very routine. Well, I mean, I guess the only good thing I can say is I'm still pretty active, even though I'm fasting and whatnot. And
blessings to you. I tried that Ramadan fasting one time when I was a FAMU. I did. I really did. I did. And I was like, nah, brother. It's like, nah, brother. I like to eat. I like to snack at night. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no way.
You can snack at night. You just can't eat or drink anything from morning to night.
Yeah, I like to eat, man. Maybe not show, but trust me, I like to eat, man. I like to eat. I like my food. So,
well, yeah. You know, I don't know. I'm maintaining, I guess. What can I think of that I've done? I don't know, JoJo. You go. You tell us.
Well, you know, I got both my COVID shots and everything worked out, you know.
Yay.
Okay. Woohoo. So I decided to go back to physical therapy. And hopefully by the time physical therapy is over, I'll be able to walk straight again. So I'm kind of excited about being able to walk straight again.
That is nice. That's fantastic. You go.
Woohoo. I wasn't about to be up in these people's.
You know I want to tell a dirty joke, Joe, but you know I won't.
Oh Lord, Fatmata will beat us if we do anything like this. She will kick our butts. But I'm just saying, I was not going to be all up in people's physical therapy offices and doctors' offices until at minimum I got the shot. So I got the shots, 2-week waiting period, fully kicked in. Hopefully everything is smooth sailing from here. I'm hoping, but I'm still double masking. So I'm not messing around with that.
Well, something, I just thought about something good that happened, not to me, but that I was happy about. So my nephew, my oldest nephew,
Yeah.
he just went to his prom.
Oh.
And he looks so spiffy.
Wasn't he just born the other day?
My dear, right? He is, and I keep forgetting, but I need to post it. He lifted 725 pounds lifting.
What the heck?
725 pounds.
That hurt my back just hearing that.
You know what I'm saying? Dude.
He's a teddy bear. He's a big teddy bear. But him and his brothers are the reasons why I fight so much. Because
God protect them both. Jesus Christ.
Somebody see him, they're going to think he's a big man, and he's, because any Black person is dangerous. He's a big teddy bear, loving boy. So that was nice. That was a good week. Like that was good last week. It made me happy.
Well, that is awesome. Yay.
So thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. And JoJo, where can they find us before we close out?
YouTube, Black Diaspora Voices. On Twitter, Diaspora_Voices. On Instagram, Black Diaspora Voices. And we have a page here on Facebook. So if y'all are not in the group and don't want to bother with waiting around to get, accepted into the group, go right to the page. Also Black Diaspora Voices. And I think that's it.
Like us, like
the page. And I think that's it, right? Oh, and of course, the podcast I keep talking about. Yes, that's coming. So soon you'll be able to hear these uploads in your, Apple iTunes and all those things. But I'll let y'all know when that comes.
Fantastic. So, Jahra, thank you so much. It's been so long since we actually had a conversation live, not just messaging.
Yeah.
Good.
It's been good. Well, I always trouble Joe. I always call her and randomly because, if I have to sit down and wait for her to call me.
And Fatmata, when's the last time I picked up the phone to call you?
You don't call me, and you've known me since 95. But he don't call me though.
That's true. You don't call Fatmata. But Fatmata, when's the last time I called you? When's the last time we've had a conversation on the phone?
I know, right?
I don't call nobody. If I don't call my mama, my dad yells at me on a regular basis. So you're in good company, friends. I mean, Jahra.
Don't go there.
Us, Jahra McLawrence. Wait, actually, I won't say your middle name. And yes, I do know what your middle name is. Is it, or is it the G name?
Jermaine, yeah. That's my middle name.
Okay. Is that your middle or your first name? Oh, forget it. We'll talk about offline.
So, people, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, for taking the time, allowing us in your living room, in your dining room, and JoJo,
your laptop, wherever it may be.
So thank you very much, everyone. And we shall see you again next week, Wednesday, for another amazing conversation. We have a nice lineup of people coming up. So hold on tight, because this is the time for conversations. As somebody once said, it is our time. So Black Diaspora Voices is by us, for us, and about us. And you should never, ever, ever be ashamed to talk about us and promote us and address our issues. Again, thank you and have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Night.